ready to roll.
Well, welcome everyone. This the hour is almost 7 o'clock, and I guess we could start off. But I think did the trustees show up?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there they are. Well, we're represented here with Northfield Center, Rich Waddell, and Dave.
No, John.
John. When I look at you, I see both names come to my head.
That's okay.
And obviously we have full members of council that are here. But we're here to talk about the insurance service organization and what that has done since Macedonia has consolidated with Northfield Center and Sagamore. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief because he certainly knows a lot more about the grading and how they got to the grade that we're currently at, which is a 2. So with that,
Whole bunch of abbreviations, so there will be a test when we get done. So ISO Insurance Services Office organization is a large organization, and it's a little bit hard to understand. They grade fire departments, so I threw together a quick presentation to show the trustees and also our council members and to the public exactly what it is. So what is ISO? It's an insurance services organization. It's an independent organization that comes out and they grade the fire protection in communities. It does so using a public protection classification, PPC, system that incorporates from NFPA, one of our largest, it is the largest National Fire Protection Association, writes all of our standards for the fire service across the board. Big thing of books. Actually, they don't even do the books anymore. It's all online that you have to do, but it is quite comprehensive, and it covers everything from our turnout gear to our trucks to all of our training standards for the United States. And of course, the American Water Works Association, because of the water aspect. Firefighting, we need water, so therefore they're involved with the hydrant system and the water system. So ISO has been around for a very long time. This classification has been around. It actually came out of the Great Chicago Fire, and it also came out of the Charleston Fire in the 1870s. And they found, when they were doing this, insurance companies were writing policies, and they had no basis to write the policies for. Was there a fire department? Was anybody going to show up to extinguish these fires? And they were paying out quite high. They were charging premiums and paying out quite high, and so they came up with the PPC to give insurance companies credible numbers in which to base their premiums on. So the PPC through ISO provides up-to-date information. They used to do it for communities about every 15 years. They've been asked by the insurance industry to up that to every 5 years. We just went through a regrading in 2013, which we went from a 4 to a 2. So we went down from a 4 to a 2. And as you look, they do quite a number of fire departments, 46,000 fire departments, serving 55,000 communities. So rather a large organization. It is the only company that does this. They have no competition. They grade fire departments all the way across the United States. So it's kind of a golf score. The lower the score, the better. 1 being a superior department, and 10 being effectively no fire department. So as the insurance companies take a look at this, they can base their premiums on these numbers. So as they actually pay for a subscription for the PPC through ISO, they buy this book and it rates all fire departments across the United States. And then they base their premiums on that. So premiums are substantially lower in a 1 community or 2 community compared to a 9 or a 10 community with effectively. And then the reason being is if something catches on fire, chances are it's going to burn down if you're a 10. Chances are they're going to have to pay 100% for replacement cost of that structure. And with a 1, chances are, after they go through this, it's quite comprehensive, after they go through this grading, they feel that the fire would be extinguished prior to massive damage to the building, and then their costs would be much, much less. So they establish their premiums for this. ISO, through the PPC, does not establish premiums. They simply sell the grading number to the insurance companies. And then the insurance companies use that number, however, in their formula, however that they do. So what do they look at? When they come in to do a public protection classification grading, what exactly do they look at? Well, it's based on 105 points. It used to be based on 100 points, and they've added in some stuff which I'll cover. So the emergency communications is our dispatch. How we receive calls, how fast we pick up the phone when they call. Okay, they look at that. It's all based upon actual calls. So when they come in, they go into our dispatch. They see how many times the phone rings before it's picked up, how long they're on the phone, and how long they dispatch us all the way till we're on the scene. That is obviously very important, our response time. That is all in the response time. So when the phone rings, they pick it up, the clock starts ticking. It actually starts ticking before how many times it takes the phone to ring, which they capture that from our dispatch. So they go visit our dispatch, they did with Sonia, and they go through that. So they go through what type of reporting system that they have. Okay? How do they notify the firefighters? Is there redundant systems? If our main system goes down, if we use radio and our radio system goes down, is there any redundant systems in which to notify us? So they look at all of the systems that are in place. They make sure that we're testing and using all of those systems. Obviously, we have multiple redundant systems here. It reverts back to the phone system, the cell phone system. So we have multiple systems. The technology that they're using, are they using the enhanced 911? When they pick up the phone, do they get a GPS of where that phone is? Okay, if it's a cell phone. Now, what are we talking, John? Probably 60 to 70% of emergency calls are now coming in on cell phone. So they're not coming in on a house phone. So even though, if you call from a house phone, your address pops up. It does not with a cell phone. A GPS will show up. So they have to get that information, log that information, and be able to have us respond, which they look at. Training and certification of dispatchers. What kind of training do they get when they walk through the door? How proficient are they at doing their job? Which they go through and look at that. And then the CAD, the computer-aided dispatch, which system that we use and how well it works for us. And then how they notify the firefighters, which are talked about as far as the different redundant systems. Ours is a radio system, and that's how they notify the stations. We also, in our station, have something that they were very interested. We have piped in 911. So we're in the station, dispatcher hits a button, we hear the actual call. So we hear what's transpiring in the call, which gives us a great, great idea of what we're going to. Is somebody screaming on the phone, my house is on fire, or somebody say, I think I smell smoke inside my house? So that helps us a whole bunch. We're actually listening to the conversation between the dispatcher and the person that's on the phone. So we're rolling to the appropriate equipment. We're getting in our mindset as far as what we're going to be handling. We're thinking about automatic aid and mutual aid of what resources that we're going to get to that fire. I know they were rather impressed with that, and it works very, very well for us in response. So the next thing they look at is 50 points is for the fire department. This is really the meat and potatoes that we get into. Dispatch is obviously 10%, and the fire department is the next 50%. So they look at absolutely everything. They inspect our fire trucks, our engines, they inspect the equipment on our engines, they inspect the fire hose on our equipment. They require to see test records for all of our fire hose, for the SCBA, for the ladders, for the pump testing to show that the truck will do what it's supposed to do. They go over quite extensively all of our training, from recruit, officer, driver training. They require to see all of that training Of course, we have a system that we log all of our training, and it goes into a master book that we can show what our training is. We have to do that for EMS for the state, and we also keep it for all of our fire training. That also goes in to training with automatic aid companies. When we have automatic aid, which we do, which they give us credit for, training with those departments. Not just saying, hey, they're going to come over and help us in a fire. We have to actually prove that we're effective at working with these guys, okay, when it goes through. And there, fire personnel available and responding. There's that NFPA again in 1710. There was a lot of discussion, I know, about 1710 and NFPA and whether we could meet this. This is one of the standards that they explicitly look at in the fire rating, is the 1710, and that is responding manpower. Okay, with a working structure fire, how many firefighters do you have responding on what equipment? So it's rather important, and I know there was a lot of discussion when we went into the consolidation. So it is part of this. They did go through all of our equipment and are responding, so they actually look at live working fires, and they see how many people are responding and what equipment they're responding in. So that is a large part of the PPC. Maintenance and testing of all of our equipment, as I said, they look at all of our equipment to make sure that there's preventative maintenance being done on it. Basically, that it's going to get to the fire. They want to make sure it's going to get to the fire so they can extinguish the insured's property. Pump ladder, as I mentioned. Aerial ladder test, we have to have our aerial ladder tested by third party every year. They come out and put it through all of its paces, testing the ladder, testing the waterway, going over every nut and bolt on it to make sure that it's in working order, and then we show them all of the training records and testing records for all of our equipment that we have. Obviously, response times of structure fires. They also look at our standard operating procedures, our SOPs, and then our incident management system to make sure that we're using the National Incident Management System effectively on our calls. Rather a big deal. That's NIMS has been around for a little while, and it's a National Incident Management System of how you handle emergencies and how they expand and how they contract depending on how large the emergency is. So they review all of those documents. And the next one's 40%. We don't have a whole bunch to do with this other than all of our hose and all of our hydrant locations. Obviously our hydrants are in, but we do all flow testing on our hydrants. We also test our hydrants once a year. We did that this year with North Hill Water District. North Hill Water District serves Northfield Center and Sagamore Hills, and they take care of the water systems there. They don't own them, just like we don't own our hydrants here. We don't own our mains here. We don't own the water in them. In fact, we pay a large sum just to use their hydrants every year. What was that this year, Mayor? I know you. I know you saw that bill. $30,000. $30,000 for us to hook up to a fire hydrant and be able to use the water out of that is what we pay for that. So we're around 3,000, a little over 3,000 fire hydrants. Everyone is flushed, tested, flow tested to make sure that they work. They look at those. But as far as the water system, a lot of that testing is done down at Cleveland to see where they get their water from. Obviously, we have Lake Erie, which is awesome, but if you're in other communities, you might not have that water supply there. So we have a very, very good water supply system. They look at the pressures. Do we have adequate pressures to put out the buildings that we have in town? And we have no problem with that. We have no problem with that. All of our hydrants are 300 foot. They look at places that are 1,000 foot or more from a hydrant. And I know we built a building here, and we require buildings in Macedonia to have a yard hydrant, and this is why we require them to do that. Because if they were over 1,000 foot, ISO doesn't like that, okay? Because they're selling a number to a insurance company, and this building is outside the 1,000 foot. So we would have to lay 1,000 foot of hose, which we do have in our trucks, but they know that is time consuming to do that to a hydrant and then get effective water to fight that. So they actually look at all of our buildings and their locations. So they want to make sure, the bottom line, they ensure that the needed fire flow, how big is this building, how much water is it going to take to put this building out, is what they effectively look at. And then here's one I thought we did a really good job. We picked up some good points here. This is community risk reduction. This is where it comes down to fire prevention. Do you have an active fire prevention, which we do here? We invest, Ben Franklin, the first firefighter, an ounce of prevention. It's worth a pound of cure. We do that very, very actively here, okay? Jan, you're laughing. Did I say that wrong? Okay. Going back a little bit with Ben Franklin, huh? So we're very active in fire prevention. We review all plans. Our inspectors review every plans that come through. We have input. Our building department we work very, very well with. We were able to prove all of that we review all plans when they come through for fire protection, whether it be a sprinkler system, whether it be a fire hydrant, all of the safety. We get our trucks in to fight this. It's close enough to fire hydrants. And we're able to do this. We can turn our truck around and get it in there if it's an aerial. Fire safety education, we do fire extinguisher training, we do CPR, we do AED training with the community. We were able to show what we do. We have a fire safety trailer, and we also do the fire safety programs in the schools, and we were able to get additional credit for that. And then, of course, fire investigation. Our fire inspectors are all certified fire investigation, and that includes any type of arson that they can come out and investigate. And they're while they're not certified, because there is no certification, they have to provide a lot of training in that area to be able to show. So if somebody does have a fire and the insurance company has to pay a large sum, they want that person caught. Okay? They want that person caught that started that fire that made them pay out a bunch of money. So that's rather important to them. So where do we fit in? We just received a 2. Macedonia was a 2 from 2013, and then we consolidated. Northfield Center and Sagamore Hills were a 4. We dropped them from a 4 to a 2, and as you can see, countrywide, where we fit in at. So as a Class 2, Macedonia, Sagamore, Northfield Center are in the top 3% of the nation. As you can see, I forgot my pointer. As you can see, we would be down here in a Class 2, and you can see the different classes and where the communities fall throughout the country. So we're down to being one of 1393. So, and then you can see how everybody else falls as they go down, where the communities actually fall. So in the state of Ohio, out of the 2473 communities, we're in the top 2%. There's 71 in the state of Ohio that ranked, graded up as a 2. There is 3 1s in the state of Ohio. Okay, we are one of 71 2s in the state of Ohio, all the way down. As I said, it's a golf score. So effectively, in Ohio, there are 20 communities that have no fire protection whatsoever. So they're automatically rated a 10. Insufficient, basically. So where do we fit in the county? Didn't have a graph for that. So there is only one community that has earned a Class 1 rating in Summit County, and there are only 3 communities, and that is Macedonia, Sagamore Hills, and Northfield Center, that have received a Class 2. So we are, our Macedonia Fire is one of only 1 Class 2, and there's only 1 Class 1 that's in Summit County. So we're rather proud of that. So we have the 2nd highest rating in the county grading. So really what this means is lower insurance ratings. It means lower premiums. This takes place March 1st when the other communities will be regraded. Maybe not a huge thing to a residential house premium, but major for the businesses. Major, probably major for the schools too. Major decrease in premiums for fire protection. So if you, even if you just have your house you can talk to your insurance company, tell them that you were re-rated as a 2 through ISO. They'll probably be a little bit surprised by that because not a lot of people pay attention to that, and then see if you will actually get a reduction in your premiums for your fire protection in your house. So who played a role in this? Really support by our elected officials. You know, we did have a lot of support. Sagamore Hills added a fire station, huge. We added manpower with the consolidation that was from Macedonia, so that added manpower. And then maintaining equipment, we were able to send a lot of equipment out for third-party recertification. I know the trustees were on top of that, but they supported us in sending those vehicles out to be tested, for the pumps to be tested, and to get those trucks prepped and preventative maintenance all done on them. So when they came in, we could prove that to ISO that these trucks are ready to roll. So dispatchers and supervisors, they did a fabulous job. As far as, you know, they rated an 8.8 out of 10. So they did a fantastic job. I want to, you know, they don't just come in and ask questions. They look at actual calls, how many times the phone rings before it's picked up, how effectively are the calls. And they look at, you know, 100, 200 calls. So some of those calls, if they were too long before they paged them out, you know, they mark them down, and the grader comes over and talks to us. I know Captain Ripley and myself answered some questions for them, and they were very satisfied and gave us an 8.8 in that. And then, of course, with the combined dispatch services with just Macedonia, you know, we had dispatchers and we had dispatcher service, but with the combined, we have more dispatchers on duty right now, so that was able to get us actually more of a 2, if that makes sense. So we were graded more into a 2 than we were before. So, and of course the fire department officers and firefighters, when they look at this, they look at turnout time, how fast the firefighters are turning out, getting on the truck and getting to the scene. Okay, so they go back to these structure fires, they capture all of these structure fires for the last 3 years, they pull them out, and they want to see when the tones dropped, when we were notified, and how long it took us to get onto the truck, get dressed, and get to the scene. They look at our automatic aid, they look at our mutual aid, how many firefighters. Training, you know, firefighters are going out, they're getting training, and officer training, and driver's training, recruit training, so they're keeping their certifications up, response times, and then just downright maintaining equipment. What equipment's on there. They come and they pull our chainsaws off, and they look at our equipment and they go over it. And they rated our equipment excellent. We buy good stuff, we take care of it, and we expect it to last a long time for us. So that went a long way with them. They come in, they see dirty trucks, they see dirty equipment, they already it starts hurting us in our classification. They want to see stuff that's maintained, and our guys do an excellent job at that. So I covered that kind of quick. If anybody has any questions, I'd be trying. Yes, John.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that on behalf of Dave and Paul, who could not be here tonight, we had family gatherings, so I can speak on their behalf. We really are pleased and so happy of your professionalism and the Macedonia Fire Department, which you guys have brought to the Sagamore Township. If you could expand a little bit more on the new fire station that we have over there, as far as how that impacted this ISO rating, and in 2015 we moved our dispatch from Sagamore Hills to Macedonia, so that helped play a role, I'm assuming, as well. If you could just expand a little bit more on that.
Absolutely. We did get dispatchers from there that came over. They were offered positions here, and I think several of them did come over and took positions here. So that was hiring experience, bringing people over. They knew your town, which helped. We have to be able to know where we're responding. Plus the numbers. Your people from the dispatch center came in, and now we have 2 dispatchers around the clock, where we didn't have the call volume to be able to do that in the past. But when you start combining services like that, you have the capital to be able to add the additional people in. And that's exactly what we did. And as far as stations, when they look at that stuff, they look at travel distance from the station. Obviously, the farther the call is from the station, the longer the response time is going to be. So they actually look for engine placement, okay? Road miles traveled, and the road miles for an engine is 5, and for a ladder it's 2.5. So they look at that response time, and then they identify how many buildings are outside that response area, because they know it's going to take you longer to get there. And of course, their building's going to burn more while you're getting there. So that station was huge. I mean, that was a huge thing for us, responding from one station to a far off location. Yeah, that didn't do no good for us. So adding that station was huge.
Response time.
Oh, absolutely huge, because that's a staff station. Yeah. You guys did a great job, Dave.
You might want to elaborate though on the EMS calls, which is not a part of the ISO necessarily, but the EMS calls and the response times by virtue of having 3 stations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's. I got you, Kevin. Having paramedics close. Everybody came here today. You have traffic, so if we're traveling a long way, it really it increases our response time. Obviously, somebody that's not breathing. People ask me what's a good response time, and I always tell them, for EMS, hold your breath. When you want to breathe, we should be there, okay? Because damage is being done when you're not breathing. So as long as you can hold your breath. And then the other one for fire is set your pants on fire and let us know when you want it put out. Okay, so it's pretty quick. I want to put out now, So that's good response time. I mean, as fast as we possibly can, as safe as we possibly can. Us not getting to the scene, okay, because of some reason is not good. We cannot become part of the problem. We have to be the solution. So getting to the scene, driving, the certification for driving, and the EMS and the certification. So having that ability to have a station there at the north end. We don't have the traffic when we're pulling out of there from the other stations. Plus we have backup from the other stations. And that's huge. We didn't have that. You didn't have that backup. People have to come in here and go. Now we have 3 stations. We had 3 bad car crashes today. And I know my officers were able to call other stations in to do that. One was in the center up on 271, and one was on Route 8, and the other one was on 82. We have 4 today? Dave, looking at you, you're the officer in charge. Uh-oh. I think we had 3 or 4.
We only responded to 2, but I know there were more.
Okay. So we're able to call those different stations in, and there's no walls. We no longer have walls that we have to call. I have to call back to my dispatcher, and my dispatcher has to call another dispatch center. It's all there. We actually do it ourselves. We just call the other stations. And we also dispatch for Northville Village. So that's one of our mutual aid and auto aid partners that we use a lot of, because all we got to do is call our dispatch and she tones them out, and then they come down. They send their people down to help us. And we do same thing for them. I mean, we have very good working relationships with everybody around. We have a lot of automatic aids, especially for our 271, 480. Twinsburg, Oakwood handle that because we don't even have an exit ramp onto 480. And there's some bad crashes up there. So that helps us all the way around. But being closer to the citizens, less road miles is, huge. Kevin.
So first off, I'd like to congratulate you and the firefighters. I think it's excellent. So my question was, when waiting for grants from the state and federal government, does the ISO rating help at all? I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have a lower one. But when you're trying to get money from the state, does it help to have a lower ISO rating?
That's a very, very good question. And I happen to have my grant writer
here.
Yes, Dave is my grant writer. He's also officer today. He's also the grant writer. Dave, is that come to play?
It's something that I'm going to add into one of the narratives because I'm not sure, so I'm just going to throw it in there.
So that is something that we can put out there to do that. Yes.
Tim, just want to clarify in my mind. You said we had our ISO rating go from 4 to 2 in 2013.
Yes.
When is the next ISO evaluation?
Well, we actually came early for this one because we had consolidated.
Okay.
And so they came out early to regrade. If you make any changes, they want to come out and regrade you immediately. Okay. So they saw we had made changes, and they called me up and said, we need to come out immediately and regrade you based upon our consolidation.
Okay, so they completed this activity when?
They came out in September.
This past
Yes.
September
Yes.
2017?
Yes. Yes, they came out in September. So that's,
So our rating remained the same, basically?
Macedonia's rating remained the same. It was a 2 since 2013. It is still a 2.
Right.
And we brought down Northfield Center and Sagamore Hills to a 2 from a 4.
I understand.
But they were 4. Yes, sir.
Tim, I want to congratulate you from Northfield Center. My question to you is when you get an ambulance call, you pull from the closest location, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if it's in Macedonia, you pull from Northfield Center.
Yes.
Sagamore, you pull from Northfield Center.
Yes.
Vice versa, so.
Yes. We have active 911 on our cell phones, which automatically pinpoint the location of the call, and then my officer makes determinations. There is a basis set up for the closest, okay, location, but today we had a squad responding back from the hospital, and it happened to be close. I know that Northfield Center and Macedonia both have a GPS program, Network Fleet, and we're able to pinpoint the location. Every one of our trucks, the speed, whether it's running, turned off, lights are on, sirens going, we're able to look at a program and be able to see all of that information. Quite worthwhile that we're able to see that. So my officers can bring it up on their cell phones or the iPads, and they're able to see where their vehicles are without getting on the radio and calling and stuff like that. And that was able to be used today as far as getting the closest available. And that's key, is getting the closest available. We didn't have that before. You had lines, you had walls built. Those walls are now gone. The guys come out of Sagamore, they come into Macedonia, vice versa. Our aerial tower goes over to the hospital over there. So it is all one working system. So there is no more walls built up. There's no more, this is mine and this is yours. And I have to thank the trustees for that. I mean, I don't get any, no matter where they're going, they know they're going to help somebody. And also, when Sagamore residents now in Walmart shopping or Kohl's or something like that, we do a soft billing for all of the residents in here. So, and our billing's way up, as you guys know. I mean, we're able to capture more of that.
Hi,
Jeff Snow.
Jeff Snow, more of a statement and a thank you. I represent North Hills Water District, and we actually, just to clarify, we actually own the pipes in North Hills Center and Sagamore.
Okay.
We actually own them, we pay for them as taxpayers, and those pipes are probably worth about $100 million, believe it or not, to replace. So we have a big investment in the community. Your officers have done a great job in flushing those hydrants this year. I know Carol Lewis, our chair, came over to thank you for that. But more importantly, I also represented the former fire district in Northfield Center and Sagamore Hills. Our rating was a 5. Chief Risco did it did as much as he could to get us reduced to a 4, and didn't think we could ever get any better than a 4. And it's amazing that you have moved us to your level of a 2. And we are grateful for that. We're very impressed with all the flushing and what you've done in cooperation with us and the Explorers. In past years, we've had issues with that, where we've had breaks or problems. We had a very uneventful year, which is great news for all of us. And we really appreciate what you've done for all of the residents. I think your statement is very important. We have torn down a lot of silos as it relates to these very important public services. So thank you, and congratulations on a 2. We are thrilled.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Close.
We're going to start our regular schedule.